Now I invite you to get into a comfortable position for a spoken word from myself. And you can put me on speaker view if you want to see me. The history of the United States on immigration is very checkered. The myth of the American dream is that after you immigrate here, you adapt to the norms and the culture, and if you work hard, you will succeed according to your skill and your labor. Assimilation describes the process of social, cultural, and political integration of a minority into a dominant culture and society. And for centuries, that dominant culture and society was white and dominantly of European ancestry. So assimilation for hundreds of years has meant to conform and integrate into the white European culture of the United States. The term melting pot to describe the assimilation approach, that can be traced back to the late 1700s, but it really became widespread in use at the beginning of the 20th century. The metaphor is a powerful one, conveying the message that if you fit in, you'll be fine. All you have to do is become as white and as European as you can, and you'll be fine. But immigration to the United States was virtually halted from the mid-1920s until 1965. Following the passage of the landmark 1965 Immigration Act, the country once again began experience a period of mass immigration. Now, pre-1920, the immigrants primarily came from Europe, but since 1965, immigrants have predominantly come from Latin America and Asia. The economic, social, cultural, and impact of these new immigrants on American society is hotly debated. Now, researchers Emily Greenman and Yi Saya, in a paper published at the National Institute of Health, commented this, quote, "One thing is clear. The long-run implications of this new wave of immigration since 1965 will be primarily determined not by what happens to the immigrant themselves, but the outcomes of their children." How the children are treated by the dominant culture will determine what happens. Irish Americans, people from Ireland, were not considered white for most of a century. From the immigration caused by the potato famine in 1840 until long after 1900. People from Ireland were not considered white. Why? Art MacDonald, PhD, a Unitarian Universalist, wrote an article, How the Irish Became White. And he explains it this way, quote, "Irish and African Americans had a lot in common and lots of contact during this period from 1840 to 1900. They lived side by side and shared workspaces. In the early years of immigration, poor Irish and blacks were thrown together, very much part of the same class, competing for the same jobs. In the census of 1850, the term mulatto appears for the first time, due primarily to the intermarriages between Irish and African Americans. At that time, the Irish were often referred to as Negroes turned inside out. But the Irish had a choice, and they became white. In the eastern cities, they took over the labor and menial jobs in large number, purposely at extremely low wages. They forced out the African Americans from those jobs. They organized into unions and demanded and achieved higher wages. The Irish became white because they had the option to do so and succeeded in this culture. Now, the Irish, the Italians, and Eastern Europeans could survive in a melting pot culture of assimilation and did so after they became white. But how can you survive in the melting pot if you are black, indigenous, or a person of color? The U.S. myth is melting pot. The Canadian metaphor is mosaic, a whole picture made of separate individual pieces, and each piece retains their identity, but together they form a whole colorful picture. Now, researchers currently are also using the metaphor of salad bowl to try and capture the richness of diversity in a multi-ethnic, multiracial culture. Now, regardless of the name, the melting pot metaphor isn't a feasible path into our collective future. Melting pot isn't working anymore. In fact, it never did. It always left people out. But switching metaphors, that's just rearranging words. Remember, what matters is how immigrants are treated and how their children are treated. But if the melting pot assimilation culture doesn't work, what does real incorporation of us all look like? What does a salad bowl neighborhood look like? I mean, are all the diverse culture grouped together, or are they intermixed with each other? Does a salad bowl culture have road signs in multiple languages? Do salad bowl schools teach in multiple languages? Do they teach multiple versions of history? A harmonious image of a salad bowl culture is inspiring, but inspiration is only a good start. Just a good start. An inspiration, a thought, and having faith is only a start. From the Christian Bible, book of James, chapter 2, verse 14 says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but do not have works? Can faith save you? Faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead." But what can you do? What can your works be to not see the stranger as someone who's different? Now, do you remember when Rev Ryan and I had a question box service? Now, this was pre-COVID, and so we were in the fellowship, and one of the questions from the congregation was this: how many people are in the world? And I answered first, and I said I was a statistics nerd, and there was somewhere between 7.6 and 7.8 billion people on Earth. Rev Ryan said, without even pausing, how many people in the world? One. There's one person in the world. See, we have a lot to learn from each other. Rev Ryan sees the interconnectedness, sees that we are one. And I'm getting there. I'm changing. Our reading today captures it for me. It's really about changing my attitude. It's about changing my vocabulary. It's about seeing the world with less bias and less judgment. It's about me changing to see the stranger as a long-lost relative. It's about me seeing that we are one. It's about not seeing a stranger, but seeing my relative for the first time ever. So how do we behave when someone finds our congregation, walks in as a visitor? This will happen. I assure you, there will come a time when a visitor walks up to our door and comes in. What is your reaction when you see someone unknown in your territory? Do you approach them with curiosity, apprehension, hesitancy? Will you expect them to assimilate? Will you expect them to fit into the dominant culture? Do they listen to the same news? Do they belong to the same political party? Or will you try to incorporate them into us? See how their differences will make us more than we are today. Will we use the melting pot to assimilate them, or see them as a piece of our mosaic to incorporate them? I can only change one person, but if I change myself, others around me will see that. And maybe some will see that they aren't powerless, and they too can change one person. And maybe we'll talk about the changes we're each experiencing. And maybe together we'll stop using words that keep us apart, and we'll help each other in our transitions. And maybe we'll see the visitor not as a stranger, but as part of us. And maybe we can live into our vision statement. We envision beloved community for a more humane and just world. My prayer for all of us is that we do not become overwhelmed with the state of the world, our country, or our neighborhood. May we use all our principles and values as our lens on the world and on ourselves. May we all transform the one person we can, and may we never give up on our mission, which states, as an open faith community, we manifest our guiding principles and transform ourselves and our world through the power of love. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.